Hi, good afternoon. Let's see if my sound is up and working yet. If anybody is on in a minute here when we go live, if somebody can just let me know that they are on live. I have to remember how to figure out how to see my comments. There are my comments. Great. Hi, I'm Lizette. I am an occupational therapist by background and training. I am also a dementia specialist, a dementia consultant, and I have recently started a company by the name of Think Different Dementia. And I also just started last week this little group, or this little live stream, for talking to people on this dementia support group, the Alzheimer's and Dementia Support Group, regarding anything and everything anybody wants to know about dementia, asking questions live online. And hey Christine, thank you. Can you hear me? Just shout me, just let me know if you can hear me. So a little bit about myself. My husband and I came to the United States in 1993, and we currently live in Greenwood, South Carolina. We have 12 chickens, which may be a couple chickens too many. We have 4 cats, and we have a dog. We have 2 daughters. One still lives with us at home. She is here in nursing school at Lander University, and I work full-time as a home health occupational therapist. And I don't have as many questions from last week left over, so today I'm very much going to rely on people to be asking me questions. So if you have questions, please throw them in the comment section. Hey Eunice, you guys are up late. You know, I picked this time of day especially for my friends in South Africa because I know they're still up. So today I have a special announcement to make. I don't know how many people are on live, but I had a little contest earlier this week where I am trying to come up with a name for this live stream. And as things would have it, the 2 names that were, I had people give suggestions of different names, and then I put them on the poll. And of the people of the poll, the choices of the poll were actually 2 people that were either relatives of myself, or friends of myself. So, hey Diane, good to see you. If it's morning where you're at, you've got to be in a different time zone than me because it's afternoon here. So, just tell me where you're tuning in from. That would be great. So we have. So I had 10 people actually submit names for the group, or for the live stream, rather, I should say. And so I decided to do things differently because my intent was, oops, don't do that, that's a computer. My intent was to be able to use, pick one of the names from somebody that had submitted a suggestion, and unfortunately it didn't actually turn out that way. One of my favorite names was submitted by a gentleman called Mike Tinnen, and his suggestion was Memory Matters. Unfortunately, I'm in South Carolina, and oh, there's somebody from the U.S. Oh, in Alabama. Great. So there's another company in South Carolina called Memory Matters, so I decided not to actually use that one in the drawing because I did not want to get in trouble since I'm in South Carolina myself. So Mike, I loved your name. It was awesome. Hey Kathy, and Charlotte from the UK. That's wonderful. I specifically picked this time, I mentioned it earlier on, but I specifically picked this time because I have a lot of people that have reached out to me from overseas, mostly the UK, Australia, South Africa, some in Canada, and then the Philippines. And I know this is a hard time for the Philippines because they're 12 hours ahead of us, or behind us, I don't remember which, I think ahead. So I try to send them the live stream afterwards. So, all right, so I have here 10 little names. I've put them inside a sticky note that I've closed up, and I'm going to put them in this box over here. And I'm going to announce real quick the name, what I decided to use for this live stream. So the 2 top picks were the Baffled Brain and then Demystifying Dementia. And the Baffled Brain, earlier today when I checked the numbers, came in at 22 people voted for the Baffled Brain, and 12 people voted for Demystifying Dementia. So I thought to myself, I really like both. I think they're both great names. So I'm going to combine them. It's going to be called, the live stream I'm going to call The Baffled Brain, and then a colon, Demystifying Dementia. Because my plan or my purpose behind this is to try and make dementia as easy for people to understand and as easy for people to care for other people with dementia as possible. You guys that are alive, please start throwing up some questions, because I'm going to draw the name and then we're going to start answering questions. So if you guys don't have questions, you'll just listen to me ramble, which would be a very, very long hour. So here's my little bag. So I'm going to pick a name, and you guys are going to be the first ones to hear who it is. I can't see who it is, but I'm just going to pick a name. So here's one, and put that over there. And let's see who won a 1-hour free consultation with me. And maybe I can get it open. And let's see. Oh, this is cool. Michelle Mangrum. So Michelle, I will reach out to you via Messenger, and we can set up a time. So there we go. Can you guys see? Michelle Mangrum. So Michelle, you won a 1-hour free consultation with me. So we'll set up a time for that. That's awesome. So any questions? Anybody have any questions come up? So to start with, somebody earlier this week did ask me a question on one of the sites that I actually decided not to answer there, but to answer here. And the question had to do with constipation. So it's kind of a tough subject, because there's a lot that goes into bowel and bladder management. There's a lot that goes into people being constipated and not being constipated. So I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants, and we're just going to talk about constipation just for a couple of minutes. So the first thing that you want to know is that a lot of medication can cause constipation. Lots and lots and lots of medications can cause constipation for people. So the first thing that I would do is look at the medication list, and then call the pharmacist, or call or even hop online and look at the drug descriptions and see if constipation is a side effect of the medication that you're taking. So dementia per se, dementia in and of itself doesn't cause constipation. There are lots of reasons why people are constipated. People can be constipated because they've always had a lifestyle pattern where their bowels only move once every 3 or 4 days. They didn't go regularly every single day, or they had other, the kinds of food that they would eat can make you constipated. If you're not drinking enough water, if you're not eating enough fiber, there are hundreds and hundreds of reasons why people get constipation. So some easy things that you can do is try, not necessarily a laxative, but a daily stool softener. Just put it in, make it part of the regimen, where the person gets a daily stool softener to see if it can kind of loosen things up a little bit. Because, I don't know if you remember, but when your kids were little and they had a hard time pooping, then they did not want to go to the bathroom, which would make it even worse. So you want to give them no particular reason for actually having constipation, not trying to go to the bathroom. So a daily stool softener, or an every other day stool softener, can work. You want to make sure that there aren't any medications that are out there that they're taking that can cause constipation. And if so, you could maybe, depending on how constipated the person is, you can always perhaps reach out to the doctor and say, is there something else that we can do? Some other home remedy kinds of things that work pretty good. It sounds disgusting, but it actually works pretty well. And when you work in a nursing home, this is what they will do. They will give people hot prune juice, not cold prune juice, don't ask me why, but hot prune juice tends to help people's bowels move. And like I said, you want to make sure they're getting enough liquids, they're getting enough fluids, they're walking, they're exercising. And then there's some other things that can also be done, if it becomes a real big problem. But those are those are things that you want to make sure that you have a doctor on board for, things like enemas or laxatives and things like that. So yeah, I know it's not a great subject, is it, Diane? So far nobody's thrown up a question for me. So anybody have any particular questions or needs or things that I can answer today? All right, Miss Christine says, my mom's eyes have changed to gray and look glassy. It looks like she doesn't really see you, but last night she insisted she's seeing a bright light in the corner of her room. Miss Christine, since I know a little bit about your situation, I know Mom is really needing hospice care, and I know that you don't have that access. I know that your mom probably does not have very much longer, and unfortunately I think a lot of the changes that you're seeing are due to end of life. I wish I could give you a big fat hug. My heart bleeds for you. My heart bleeds for the people in parts of the world right now. COVID has totally changed access to so many people and not being able to get the help that they need. And Christine lives in South Africa. She lives in Cape Town. She and I've actually spoken and messaged a lot. I think we've only spoken a couple times, maybe once, but we've messaged back and forth. And so I know a lot about her particular situation, and I wish that we could help her with that. So then Miss Donna's question was, Christine, my prayers are with you. Before I move on, keep reaching out to me privately, and I will answer your questions as best I can. I wish that you could get some hospice in the house. I really, really do. So Miss Donna Schottel, I'm not sure I can say your name, but anyway, Miss Donna has a 90-year-old young mom who started sleeping more and more in the past week. Is she moving into the next stage? Well, Donna, that's also it's a great question, but it's, without a little bit more information, it makes it a little harder for me to give you an accurate answer. I can tell you that for people who have dementia, that typically the single biggest reason why there's a sudden change, like if it was a very sudden change, she was fine and then all of a sudden she started sleeping more, you always have to question, are they cooking a urinary tract infection? A urinary tract infection is one of the biggest, fastest reasons people with dementia change. They can be fine one day and they can be what I call cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs the next. I would have patients come to the hospital, they have a known dementia, family knows they have a dementia, and they come into the hospital and you ask them, they're what we call a total assist, somebody that needs two people to set up, they're not following instructions, they're barely, sometimes they don't even know their own name, they are significantly different. And you ask the family, I'm like, because the chart says they're living at home alone, I'm like, how are you living at alone? And then you ask the family and they were fine, and it was a very sudden change. So it can be indicative, back to Donna's question, of people maybe moving into the next stage. I would love to know more about your mom, Donna, so if you wanted to, you could reach out to me on Messenger and we can maybe message back and forth a little bit. It also depends on what stage they're at, but there are a lot of reasons people sleep more and more. The weather's changing, it's darker earlier, and also people will start to sleep more if they're bored. People with dementia so it's a fine balance, right, between overstimulation and understimulation. But a lot of times I'll go into people's houses and mom or dad will be sitting in front of a TV and the TV's blaring and they're not watching the TV and they're probably bored and they need interaction and they actually need things to stimulate their brain and they're not getting that. So reach out and let me know if that answered your question, or if you want me to maybe talk to you about that a little bit more. So Diane asked, my dad always wants to go home. He's at home, but what do I tell him? So Diane, that's a very common thing for people with dementia. So if you think about dementia, and I kind of I think I'm going to probably do this every week, but when we're born, we the first thing that we do is we learn to eat and drink, and our brain is pretty much there to keep ourselves alive, right? And then we develop and we grow and we get bigger and we can sit and we can walk and we can start to dress ourselves. And then we, go to school and we're learning information and we're keeping it in, and we start to learn how to make sandwiches and go to the fridge and feed ourselves. And my mom teaches me how to do the laundry, etc., etc., until we get to be an adult. Our thinking process is actually only mature at 25, around about 25. So everything through college and above is how we develop, how our thinking processes develop. So as people are starting to go through the dementia process, if you want to think about your brain as an onion, right, and the innermost part of the onion is the part that keeps us alive, and each layer, the subsequent layers out on the onion that you can peel back one layer at a time, the higher level stuff is the outside, and the basic stuff is the inside, the stuff that we need in order for us to stay alive. So as our loved ones are losing their memories, so our brain throws out what we don't need, and we think we need it, but our body doesn't really need to know where we left our keys, because that's not what's keeping us alive. That's not what's keeping our heart pumping and our moving. So our brain is constantly trying to protect itself, and as we start to lose our abilities and we go from the outside in, each successive layer of the onion that you peel back takes them back in time. So my guess would be that your dad, even though he might have been living in that particular house for 50 years, that's his home, he's at home, you know it, he may be somewhere else in time. He might be thinking about going home to where he was living with his mom and dad when he was a 6-year-old boy. And that looks different to where he is now. The best thing that you can do is reassure him that he is safe. It doesn't typically help telling the person, "Oh, you're at home," because they don't believe it. So you can ask some questions, things like, "Tell me where you think you are," or "Can you tell me, a little bit about." Ask him questions. Try to read. It's always hard on the flying by the seat of your pants to come up with these questions. So he says he wants to go home. Ask him, "Well, Dad, where do you think you are?" And let him tell you, and then ask him questions off of that, and then try to reassure him that he is safe, because that's probably the thing that he is feeling is he's not feeling secure. And by safe, I don't want anybody to think or imply that I'm saying that it's a dangerous situation. Our brain is just not working right. So it's not that he's in a dangerous situation. It's just that he thinks he needs to be at home with his mom and dad, and he's not necessarily there, and that makes him feel unsafe. So Diane, I hope that helped. I hope that answered your question. Like I said, if you have any more questions, please reach out and message me or just throw it on there. So the next one that came up was Kathy. Kathy Richardson Johnson says her mom says that she's not giving her medication. How can I help her to know I am giving her medication? So that's also a very difficult scenario. A lot of these scenarios are hard for me because the question is very general, and then each person's particulars are specific. So depending on your mom's level of dementia, that also would make a difference. But a few things that you can do is maybe come up with a chart, make a chart where you have like a date. Just keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then if she has to have medication 3 times a day, 4 times a day, whatever, AM, noon, PM, bedtime, and make a chart, right? And put the date, and then give your mom her medicine, and give her the pen, and have her, if she can, cross off that you gave her her medication, so that she becomes a part of it. If she is not at a point where she can do that, and she's truly not remembering that you have given her her medication, you can just try to keep reassuring her, or try to put her medication in a medication box or medication dispenser, and keep referring, keep it safe so that the medication cannot be so she cannot get to it herself, but maybe keep a very simple system of, if the medicine has been taken, it's open. If the medicine's not been taken, it's closed. So you can go to that day and, ask her, Mom, what day is it today? Okay, today's Monday. Mom, what time of day is it? About what time of day is it? It's noon. So we should have had our morning medicine. Look, it's open. So I did give you your medicine. Yet again, the biggest thing is, don't argue. It doesn't help to argue with her. If she says you haven't given her her medicine, and you argue with her, and that doesn't tend to go well. So perhaps, if all of these other suggestions don't work, try to see if you can redirect her to something different. So I hope that's helpful. Christine, yes. Eunice, yes. I'm praying for Christine as well. And Chris says maybe he wants to go to heaven. That's possible. People tend to know sometimes that they are nearing the end of their life. So that's something I believe. Hey, Moira, yes, I'm here. Diane, thank you. Hi. All right, no questions. Anybody have a question for me, or I'll just keep rambling? So medication. Let's talk about medication. Medication is actually one of my favorite things to talk about regarding people with dementia. It's probably single-handedly one of the most frustrating things that I experience as a clinician working in the field. People know mom and dad, or mom or dad, or both of them, or whoever has trouble remembering stuff. But then there's an expectation that their loved one can take their medicine correctly. And so I'd like to challenge everybody to think this through a little bit. Medication is one of the few things that we do that we need 100% accuracy in what we're doing, correct? Medication errors put people in the hospital. Medication errors can kill people. And so when you have a loved one who truly, truly is having short-term memory deficits, who truly do not remember what they're doing or what's going on, and there's an expectation that because mom has always taken her medication correctly, that mom still has the medication, that she has the ability to take her medicine correctly. So how, if somebody cannot remember, my question to people are, how do you know? What is your fail-safe? How can you tell me without a shadow of a doubt that you know that your mom's taking her medicine correctly, unless you have a system in place? I love medication boxes. They're great, but they are just as effective as the fact that a person can or cannot remember, because you can open them at any specific time. Medication that comes in a bottle that you can open it at any particular time. So unless there are a little bit better strategies in place to make sure that a person is actually taking their medication, you cannot assume that they're taking their medication correctly, because if they truly cannot remember, how do you know that they're actually remembering to take their medicine? First of all, how do you know if they aren't taking their medication correctly, that they're not actually overtaking their medication because they forgot they took it? So there are other systems out there. There are lots of other systems out there that are available. Some are on Amazon, some are called like PillPack. There are lots of different things available for medication management that will put you in control and make sure that the person's actually taking their medication as prescribed, because medication can be very dangerous. So I have another question here. So, hi, Lori Simpson. Have I any information about gabapentin, Neurontin? Your husband is getting it at the nursing home and now he's mute. Is this why? Well, people with dementia, any kind of cognitive impairment, lots and lots of medication that we get, and gabapentin, Neurontin is one of those, that has a side effect that actually affects your thinking processes. So as we get older, and this is normal for all of us, our liver actually doesn't metabolize things which is what our liver is supposed to do. It's supposed to metabolize stuff we get in, right? So as we get in medication, our liver doesn't metabolize it necessarily the same way that it did when we were younger. So medication that a person could be getting that never bothered them before, as they get older, sometimes their body is not metabolizing that medication and getting it out as fast, right? And then it has a side effect of making people sleepy or affecting thinking, and there's lots of medication. I want to say more medication than we realize actually affect people's thinking. And so it could be possible that his medication is not being metabolized by his system anymore. How long has he been on the gabapentin? Does he still need it, truly need it for nerve pain? Is it for nerve pain? Why is he on the gabapentin? Or is the fact that he is now becoming mute more an indication that his dementia is progressing? In the later stages of dementia, people get back to the point where they're only using 1 or 2 word sentences, and they really do, dementia does affect people's speech significantly. So yes, I don't know if that answers your question. That's a great question to ask your pharmacist, actually. Pharmacists are very much more, that's their particular strength, but that's what I would ask. So Chris said, yes, dementia is unforgiving. Yes, absolutely. My dad has had it. Your mom has ALS. I'm so very sorry. That is a very, very tough thing to watch somebody go through. And after your mom died, your dad continually told you he wanted to go home. You knew what he meant. Well, he got his wish in 2007. He went home. I'm so sorry, Chris. Sorry for your loss. All right, anybody else have any questions? These were great questions. I love to answer questions. So Chris, maybe you can tell me, what was the thing that was the most frustrating to you in watching your dad go through dementia? What was lacking in the healthcare arena? What can we as healthcare providers or people who want to serve people with dementia, what can we do better? What can I do better? How can I help people better? Anybody is welcome. Anybody watching is welcome to answer that question for me. All right, so Miss Donna, I'll wait and see if somebody jumps on my question. Miss Donna, why is it that the foods they used to love they don't like so much now? And why are they so lucid one day and then confused the next? So that's a great question. So one of the things that happens with dementia is over time people lose their ability to taste different things. So right, we can taste bitter, we can taste sweet, salty, oh gosh, I know there are more. And I totally forgot what else they are. But anyway, the primary things that we taste are salt, sweet, bitter, sour. I'm sure there's something else. As we go through dementia, it's a combination of a couple of things that probably happen. We're not tasting as well. Our taste buds have changed. If you think about it, everything is up here in your head, close by, so your people don't smell as well as they used to when they were younger. And so the one thing that they tend to keep the longest, spicy, thank you. The one thing that they tend to keep the longest is sweet. So food that they used to like may not have necessarily been sweet. If they're living at home and you want to see if you can trick them to eating a little bit more, it sounds disgusting, but it works, is throw a little bit of sugar, even though sugar is not great for dementia. The research has actually shown there's a significantly high correlation between blood sugar or high blood sugar and diabetes and dementia. So I don't want to necessarily have people eat a lot of sugar, but at the same time, if that's what they can taste, And we don't, in the later stages of dementia, we don't want them to lose weight. You can throw a little bit of sugar or a sugar substitute or honey on their food and see if they'll eat them a little bit better. Why are people lucid one day and then so confused the next? Well, I'm going to throw a question back at you, and that is, or maybe I'll do it this way. I know myself. I have good days and bad days, right? I have good brain days and I have bad brain days. Thinking, nobody's thinking is static. Our thinking goes up and down depending on how well we've slept, how stressed we are, how tired we are, how depressed or annoyed or angry or upset or whatever. There are hundreds of reasons why our thinking isn't the same one day to the next. So for example, even normal people have differing days of cognitive ability. So my guess would be that it probably likely has to do more with, they're having a good day and a bad day. And, people can be literally, I've watched my own parents at times be entirely fine, like fine. I'm having a conversation with them. They're entirely there. And the next minute they're like, whoop. I'm like, where'd that come from? And so, yes, it happens. It's very, very common. And then Lori, better need to understand symptoms. Yes, okay, better need to understand symptoms. And then hubby went through psychotic episodes, hallucinations, delusions, amnesia, insomnia, agitation, violence, wandering. Just felt so for something. Is he sad, confused, depressed, or just out of it? Later stage in nursing home. So your husband's currently in a nursing home, yes. So that's one of the things, Lori, I agree. And probably the most frustrating thing for me, my specialty is dementia, and I can only make a difference with the people that I'm working with one-on-one at a time in a specific situation. And then you're in the hospital or you're in the home and you're seeing them for something else. And dementia is so big, right? It is such a big, nasty, ugly thing, and it's got so many different little stuff. And people tend to go through fairly similar trajectory, fairly similar progression of the disease, but each one of the different types of dementia, because there's Alzheimer's, there's frontotemporal dementia, there is Lewy body dementia, there's Alzheimer's dementia, there's Pick's dementia, there's all these different ones. And so each one of them have a little bit different stories. And so unless you can, really spend hours and hours and hours sitting with people trying to explain dementia to them, I can only teach people at the moment that they're in what they're dealing with right now. And if I try to teach them, the whole kit and caboodle right from the beginning, I will overwhelm them and they won't know what to do. So I am trying to figure out a way to have more touch points with people throughout the progression. Hence the establishing a dementia consulting business so people can come to me for those touch points when they need help, because not everybody always needs help at the same specific times. So since Chris said, well, since they will only get worse, I think hospice should be offered at any time. No, Chris, I don't think that's cruel. The problem in the United States, so I would presume you're in the United States. I don't know that for a fact, but I would presume that. Since in the United States hospice is way more accessible than in other parts of the world, yes, significantly earlier would be a good thing. The problem with hospice, or the problem, I don't want to say the problem with hospice because it's not the problem with hospice, it's the problem with this system, is that in order for somebody to be on hospice, if something happens, they have to rescind hospice in order for them to go to the hospital. So a lot of families are not ready. A lot of families are not ready early on to hear about hospice or palliative care. And so sometimes by the times people are ready for hospice or palliative care, it's too late because they've waited too long. And I actually recently had a particular situation It is very evident to all of us going in, working with this person, talking to the family. They are in the end stages of dementia. They cannot feed themselves. They're requiring total assistance, total care in the bed. And you talk to them about hospice, and they're like, no, mom's going to get better, dad's going to get better. And so yes, it sounds like hospice would have been a good thing for you earlier on. Hospice has lots of things that they can offer. It helps with payment for a lot of different things. So yes, I think hospice is a great thing. But a lot of people, when they get faced with that decision, something else happens, and mom has a sudden change or dad has a sudden change, and they're faced with, do I let him go down the hospice line or take him back to the hospital? I've seen it over and over. They elect to take the person back to the hospital because they're not ready yet to say goodbye. Lori said white matter on brain and Alzheimer's may be mixed. Docs don't say for sure. A lot of times, no, the doctors don't say for sure. And over time, really, honestly, the longer a person has dementia, the more they look alike. Even though, paranoia and hallucinations and delusions are not common with all types of dementia, the longer a person has it over time, the more consistent it looks like that. So, Miss Michelle, I don't know if you were on here earlier, and I will get to your question real quick, but you actually won. I did my announcement right at the beginning of the live stream. So the people that, the two names that came out were the Baffled Brain and Demystifying Dementia, and both of those were submitted by friends or family of myself. And so I decided to put all of the names of people who actually put in put a suggestion in, and I had a drawing, and Miss Michelle, you won the drawing for 1 hour personal consultation with me. So here's your question. Mom is having an off day again today, very hard on you and your sister. It has been every other day consistently. All of what I'm talking about, yes. I know, it's very hard. But I will say one thing, and I know this is very hard when caring for people with dementia, and this is just a conversation. So I will tell you, one of the biggest and I don't want you to hear I'm saying put mom in a nursing home. That is not what I'm saying. But what is one of the biggest difference between a facility, nursing home, assisted living, versus like a dementia care unit versus people living at home? What's one of the biggest differences? There are two major differences in those two settings. In facilities, there is a very, very strict routine. Very strict routine. People get up at the exact same time every day. They eat every single day at the same time. They take the shower every day at the same time. Their meals are at the same times. Their meds are at the same times. They are on a very strict routine. And so sometimes having that kind of which is harder at home because, if mom didn't sleep well and you guys are up all night, then yes, everybody wants to sleep later, and I understand a facility, you got staff coming in, they can take over the day shift and they can work through those things. But the more structured and routine you can keep their environment, because all of us, every single one of us, our brain works better when we have a consistent routine. Routine is our friend. So you'll hear me say that a lot. Routine is our friend. You'll hear me say routine and familiar, like our self-cares, those are routine and familiar. And then I'll talk about novel and different. And novel and different is what we want to do when we want to actually work on our brain. But routine and familiar is the structure that we need to try and live in. So as much as possible, if you can keep a very structured routine, that may help. And maybe we can talk about it a little bit more, and we can try to tease out what's really going on. So what are the chances that we will inherit our loved one's disease? Kathy, I think that is a great question, and I'm so very glad you asked it. So I know that the medical model, the out there world, the thing that we hear the most is once you have dementia, there's nothing you can do. Boom, end of story. Like one of the books I read, it says, everybody has met a cancer survivor, nobody's met a dementia survivor. Well, more and more new research is indicating that there are things that we can do to decrease our risk for getting dementia, change our cognition if we've already started having changes in our cognition. There are controllable factors. So some people, right, have a genetic predisposition. Just because you have a genetic predisposition does not mean that you will get the disease. There is so much volumes and volumes and volumes of information out there that a lot of dementia can be prevented and decreased the sooner we start working on it. So some people will have what we, the fancy word is called subjective cognitive impairment. For example, anybody over the age of 45 starts to have subjective cognitive stuff. It can be because we're stressed, we're tired, we're hungry, whatever. We're sick, I'm still congested, right? There are medication, there are lots of reasons why we're having subjective cognitive impairment. But if you just watch the research, 7 to 10 years later, that can turn into what's known as mild cognitive impairment. So if we start to know that we're having true subjective cognitive impairment, and subjective cognitive impairment literally just means a test doesn't pick it up. I know I'm having trouble thinking, and I had this in December last year, which is why I totally changed my lifestyle, totally changed everything I'm doing to support my own brain health, right? And so when we have subjective cognitive impairment and we start making these lifestyle changes, and they are lifestyle changes and they're not easy, but we can change, slow down, or reverse a lot of what's going on. There's even research studies showing that people with a mild or even a moderate cognitive impairment, I'm not saying they get back all the way to normal, but they can be better if they change their habits and change their lifestyles. A lot of the research, Kathy, is showing that there are up to 36 different reasons, factors: toxicity, blood sugar, inflammation, diabetes, things that we eat, gluten, lots of different reasons why people have changes in their thinking processes of dementia. So if you want to know more about that, that is one of the things that I actually work on with people. I work with people on identifying and decreasing and mitigating their risk of developing dementia. Because I love working with people with dementia, but man, if I can prevent it, I'm all for that too. So, yes, Miss Michelle, yes, you will get a 1 hour long chat with me. It's been a mama drama day. Yes, I've had mama drama days too. Good. I'm glad that releases your stress. So I will send you a message and we'll set up a time, okay? Can I suggest any books on vascular dementia and what they are, in books on autobiographies of those who had vascular dementia or carriers of it? So, Ms. Moira, vascular dementia is more related to your cardiovascular process. So oftentimes what happens is there are lots of little, my mom has vascular dementia. She had her first stroke when she was 42 years old. And she actually had it wasn't like a blood clot type of a stroke. It ended up being an aneurysm type of a stroke. So here's the little stroke story real quick. There are two types of stroke. You have a thrombosis, which, if you want to think about a thrombosis, think about a garden hose or a hose pipe or wherever you come from, that you have water going through, right? Those are our blood vessels. Those are our blood vessels in our brain, our heart, etc. So if you have a blood clot that hits that garden hose and closes up the opening where the water's going through, right? What happens on the side where the clot is? So think in the garden hose, a clot of dirt gets in, right? So on the side that it's blocked off, you get a ballooning up and you get all sorts of blood pooling up on the side that's been stopped up, like where you plug a drain, right? So it's stopped up and you get swelling and all sorts of stuff happening on that end. Well, on the other side, what happens is they don't get the blood supply they need. They don't get the oxygen they need. So you have damage on both sides. So that is a thrombosis. That's what happens when somebody has a blood clot. That's one type of a stroke, right? So as the clot goes through, you'll have damage. You have damage on two sides. You have damage from the swelling, and the longer the swelling stays there, the worse the stroke is. And you have damage on the downstream side where there wasn't enough oxygen or if there wasn't enough blood supply, right? Now the side that has the swelling, that's the faster recovery. As that swelling goes away, that's not as damaged, or typically not as damaged. It can be depending on how long it lasts. But it's the other side that is typically the long-term residual sides of the stroke. Well, the second type of a stroke is called an aneurysm. So if you want to think about an aneurysm, think back to the garden hose, right? The hose pipe. Anybody ever have a hose pipe or a garden hose that had a weak spot in it, and the water is going through, and then it makes this big fat bubble, right? And this big fat bubble. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and if you don't take care of it, boom, it bursts, right? And so those type of strokes are massive, and they're horrible, and people more likely die from them than recover from them. Well, that's the kind of stroke my mom had initially. So she had what I call a humdinger of a stroke. And so after her stroke, she's had multiple other strokes over time, which has then caused the vascular dementia. So, Miss Moira, yes, I will look into some books on vascular dementia. I don't have any off the top of my head, or autobiographies of those who've had it, but there is a lot that you can do. A lot of the research has shown people with vascular dementia, because that's a cardiovascular issue, through lifestyle changes, diet and exercise and stress reduction and sleep, can actually improve it. So it just depends on how hard you want to work to try to see if we can stop this, or what we can do. I'd be happy to help you as well, so just reach out. And then Lori said her husband was home for many years. He had 3 episodes of syncopes in 4 months and stopped walking, go to the nursing home. Yeah. That is a great question. Why do doctors recommend facilities? My philosophy is, and that's part of why I started the business that I've started, is I want to help keep people at home. Anybody who is struggling with people with dementia who are having a hard time keeping them at home. My background in training as a therapist is how to keep people at home. And my consulting business is to try to keep people at home. Why do doctors recommend facilities? I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Not every family is cut out for it, Lori. It sounds like you might have been able to do it. No, without knowing your particular circumstances or your own health issues, I don't think it's necessarily because you were incapable and weak. I think it's because that's what the medical model does. I think COVID, this is my personal opinion, I'm an expert in my own opinion. I think that COVID has actually will swing this back the other way. I think less families are going to be willing to have their loved one go to a nursing home. So back to my earlier statement, if you guys were on earlier, what is the difference between a facility and at home, right? Structure and routine is one of them. Well, the other thing is equipment. So if you have the right equipment, you can keep anybody at home. And that's what we do. That's what OT, if you're a good OT, if you know anything about how people move and how to help people, you can almost keep anybody at home. The thing that most of the time, when families get to the point where they just cannot do it anymore, it's one of 2 things. Behaviors, negative behaviors, aggression, like physical aggression and not being able to manage that, and bowel and bladder incontinence. Those are typically the 2 things when the family gets to the point that they just say, I really can't do it anymore. I'm not saying all families, I'm just saying that those, over the years of my experience, that tends to be why people go to the nursing home. I'm so sorry that the doctors recommended a facility, and without knowing your particular circumstances, I can't say, is it appropriate for him to stay there or not, but I'm certainly here for you. Reach out, message me. I'd be happy to chat. So Chris says, I know we can't treat them like children since we're still viewed as the kids. So yes, Chris, there's a fine line between treating somebody like a child, because I don't want you to treat them like a child, they're still an adult, but understanding that they're viewing the world the same way as a child. And where this is a good, I'll use this as a good description. Unfortunate, and you hate to correlate an adult who's 85 years old or 90 years old with somebody who is 3 or 4 years old. But unfortunately with dementia, if you listen to my onion analogy earlier and listen to my progression, how people progress, they regress through exactly how we progress through our developmental lifespan. They'll go backwards through the whole thing. So at some point or another, if they're living long enough with dementia and they have gotten to the point where they are processing the world like a 3 to 4 year old, but the children or the family is expecting them to be able to live at home independently, you got to ask the question, would you expect a 3 or 4 year old to be safe to live at home independently? You wouldn't leave a 3-year-old at home alone, because they don't know how to problem solve. They don't know how to anticipate the secondary consequences of the things that they're doing. And so unfortunately, yes, they're an adult. I want to treat them like an adult. I want to honor them like my mom and dad. I want to honor them as an adult. But I cannot expect that if their thinking processes are not at the point where they can do those things anymore, I cannot expect that they're safe to do those things, and I have to help figure out a different way of them doing it. Miss Caroline said, your mom has early onset Alzheimer's. She leaves it 3 weeks before telling me she's unwell. Can you suggest anything? So that's a great question. Early onset dementia or Alzheimer's is very, very challenging. I would love to talk to you about that a little bit more. She probably doesn't necessarily understand what is going on with her, or she might understand parts of it, but not everything. And how far advanced is she? You say she has early onset, but does that mean that she's at the mild cognitive impairment phase and she's in her 50s, or she has had early onset dementia since she was 50 years old and now she's 75? So, you know, my benefit is that my parents don't need to be tested. I can tell that they have trouble with their thinking. I would love you to message me privately if you have any more questions. Can I suggest anything? Try to keep the channels open. Try to ask questions. Try to ask open-ended questions, not questions that it's a yes or a no answer. Did you go to the doctor? Yes. That doesn't really give you anything. What did the doctor say? If she doesn't remember, she may not be able to tell you. So there are lots of reasons why this could happen. I know that's a little vague, and I'm sorry, but hey, Tracy, I hope I said your name right. Moira, you're such a darling person. I wish I could help you and talk to you a little bit more. Don't beat yourself up. Yes, do not beat yourself up. And then, so Lori, yes, he was incontinent and violent, could not dress, feed, bathe, walk, etc. Only turned 68. Yeah, that's very young. So, like I said, the behaviors, and going back to what you said, where your doctor said maybe he needs to be in a facility, that negative behavior, that violent behavior, is, you know, if it takes 2 or 3 people to physically manage somebody because they've gotten violent, that does become very difficult to manage at home, just all honesty. Incontinence can be managed at home. It just depends on each person's own ability and what they're willing to do. So Tracy said, my mom, she's bumping herself and got bruises. She doesn't know where it comes from. It's because she doesn't remember. You know, when people get to a point where they don't really, they can't necessarily plan or see things, their world So me, I'm sitting here at my computer, right? The computer screen's there. I can see the lawn and the road and the house across the cars. I see everything at a distance, right? I can see from there and all the way in. So as adults, when our thinking is all the way expanded, we can anticipate the secondary consequences of things, like we can plan our wedding, we can plan to buy a car, we can plan to start a business, we can do all of those things, right? And as they're declining, their world grows smaller and smaller and smaller. And just based off of what you've shared with me over messaging and seeing your posts over time, your mom's world is probably a 3-foot block around her. So she's walking up to stuff and bumping into it and not even realizing it's there. And then she doesn't remember that she does that. No, Moira, there's a lot of hope for you. You can still change things. You can be active in changing your life and taking control. I can't say that it will make 100% improvement, but the research is showing it can make an improvement. So please take comfort in that. And here's the last question. It's from Miss Joel. So she asks, have I seen a difference in improved mental status with changes in food intake? If so, what do you recommend adding or avoiding? Thank you, Joel. That is awesome. So yes, the newer research actually has shown, Joel, that dementia can be related to diet, and without knowing the particulars of the other medical things, there's a high, and I see this every single day in the hospital, every single day in working in home health. There is a significantly high incidence of dementia in people who have type 2 diabetes. Don't even go into type 1 diabetes. I don't tend to see that as much, but I see type 2 diabetes significantly. People who have had a high A1C over years and years and years. So blood sugar control makes a massive big difference. High fat, low carb has been shown over and over, and the studies actually came out of epilepsy. So there's a lot of studies from even the 1970s showing that people with epilepsy did better with a high fat, low carb diet. And so a ketogenic diet is significantly improved. And then a ketogenic diet, and then lots of vegetables, healthy vegetables, no grains, no things like rice, no things like gluten, no things like corn, high sugar, starchy stuff, low glycemic index kind of fruit, vegetables, so on, and moderate meat. And so a lot of the research is strongly showing that if you do that, it can definitely improve your mental status. And I can tell you, Jill, because I was having subjective cognitive impairment myself, and I'm like, I've never been scared enough of getting diabetes, but I've been scared enough about getting dementia. So I radically changed my lifestyle, and I've been following this and starting to work on diet, exercise, sleep, stress, all of the things that the research is showing, and I can tell for myself a significant difference. But I can share some books with you later regarding that. So I thank everybody so much for joining me. It's about 2 more minutes before the end of my hour. I can speak forever, in case you didn't notice. So for anybody who wanted to know the name of this live stream, I'm going to call The Baffled Brain, Demystifying Dementia. So next week, that's what's going to be the title. It'll be The Baffled Brain, Demystifying Dementia, with a colon in between, so that I can talk to people about, everything that we just talked about today. So Jill, I am so excited to see you on here. I know you're a busy girl. I appreciate you and thank you so much. And if my memory serves, you and I will chat again next week. So wonderful. I thank you guys so much. Oh, one last thing. I just started a private Facebook group. It's called Think Different Dementia. So if you like what you hear, if you want to dialogue with me more, you can message me. You can join the Facebook group called Think Different Dementia. And for sure, everybody reach out, ask your questions. I plan on doing this once a week. And next week, I think I'm going to try to talk a little bit more on incontinence. I love that this is so organic and fluid. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful Saturday afternoon here, evening in the UK and South Africa, and the Lord's blessings to everybody. And thanks for joining me today. And please invite people that you know would benefit from this to this. So thank you guys. Great. Have a lovely day. Bye.